You can look strong, calm, and successful, and still spend all day attacking yourself inside. That is what high-functioning self-criticism looks like in real life, and many people miss it because the outside looks so polished. This is not the same as having high standards, and that difference can change how you see your whole life. Healthy self-checking says, "That task went badly, so I need to fix my plan next time." High-functioning self-criticism says, "That task went badly because something is wrong with me as a person." The pain starts when the problem stops being about behavior and starts becoming about identity. In this video, we will walk through the clearest signs, why this pattern hides so well, where it often starts, and what helps. The first sign is tricky because other people often praise it instead of seeing the damage underneath. You may be the reliable person in every room, the one who shows up, finishes work, and handles pressure without drama. Friends may lean on you, coworkers may trust you, and family may call you the strong one. But inside, one mistake can feel like proof that you were never good enough in the first place. That means your success does not feel safe. It feels temporary, fragile, and easy to lose. A small missed detail can feel bigger than 10 things you did right that same day. That fear can make you look very prepared, but the engine behind that preparation is often threat, not peace. Another sign shows up when people praise you and your body does not know what to do with it. A compliment may feel strange, false, or even uncomfortable, even when it is honest and kind. Instead of feeling proud, you may feel relief, like you escaped being found out for one more day. Some people deflect praise fast. They say it was nothing, or they give all the credit away. That can look like humility, but sometimes it is self-erasure, not healthy modesty. You may also distrust praise because your inner voice has louder authority than other people's words. If your private voice says you are failing, outside approval can feel weak, thin, or unreal. The next sign is one of the clearest. Achievement gives you only a very short emotional reward. You finish a big task, pass an exam, help your family, or hit a goal at work. For a few minutes, maybe a few hours, you feel lighter. Then the feeling disappears. Instead of satisfaction, your mind quickly creates the next standard, the next duty, or the next fear. That means success does not land as nourishment. It lands as a reset button. You do not get to rest in what you built, you get pushed into proving yourself again. This is one reason high-functioning self-criticism can produce a lot in the short term and burn out over time. Another strong sign is the gap between how gently you treat others and how harshly you treat yourself. When a friend makes a mistake, you can usually see the full human picture around that mistake. You may say they were tired, stressed, learning, or doing the best they could in that moment. But when you make a mistake, you may call it weakness, laziness, failure, or proof that you are not enough. You forgive other people for being human, but you punish yourself for the same thing. That is not fairness. That is a different moral system for your own life. And because it feels normal inside your head, you may not even notice how cruel that difference is. Another sign hides inside good work habits, so people often mistake it for discipline. You may over-prepare before meetings, over-explain simple choices, or overwork to prevent criticism before it happens. You answer emails too carefully. You rehearse conversations in advance. You rewrite messages again and again. From the outside, that can look like excellence, professionalism, or maturity. But underneath, the goal may not be great work. The goal may be avoiding shame. That matters because fear-based effort costs more energy than values-based effort, even when the result looks the same. The body pays for it with tension, the mind pays for it with rumination, and life pays for it with exhaustion. Rest is another place where this pattern becomes painfully obvious. If rest feels morally suspicious, high-functioning self-criticism may be running the show. You sit down to relax, and guilt arrives fast, as if stopping means you are becoming irresponsible or lazy. If you are not fixing, producing, helping, or improving something, your brain may treat that as a problem. This is more than being busy. It is using productivity to control shame. Work becomes a shield against the feeling that you are not enough without constant output. That is why some very capable people feel most anxious on weekends, holidays, or quiet evenings. Another common sign happens after social situations that looked completely normal from the outside. You may seem confident in public, speak clearly, and even help other people feel comfortable. Then later, alone, you replay what you said, what your face looked like, and whether one sentence sounded foolish. That replay can last for hours or even days, even when nobody else noticed anything wrong. This is called rumination, and self-critical rumination keeps the nervous system stuck in a threat state. The conversation ended, but your inner courtroom stays open long after everyone else moved on. One of the deepest signs is trouble separating performance from worth. A setback at work does not stay a work problem. It turns into a verdict about your whole self. A parenting mistake becomes, I am a bad parent. A conflict becomes, I am too much. A bad photo becomes, I am unattractive. A missed deadline becomes, I am failing at life. That jump from event to identity is where ordinary disappointment becomes toxic self-attack. It also explains why feedback can hurt so much, even when the feedback is small or useful. High-functioning self-criticism can also wear a mask that looks almost admirable. It can look like confidence because the person becomes polished and highly competent in public. It can look like humility because the person downplays success and avoids taking up space. It can look like resilience because the person keeps going under pressure and rarely complains. It can even look like emotional maturity because the person comforts everyone else and stays useful. But the hidden engine may be fear of failure, fear of burdening others, fear of being ordinary, or fear of being defective. That is why people often do not notice this pattern in themselves until they are exhausted. Society rewards the early form of this pattern, and that makes it harder to spot. A self-critical child may be called mature, responsible, disciplined, or wonderfully hard on themselves. A self-critical adult may get promoted, trusted, and praised for always getting things done. If the pattern produces results, people confuse the results with health. But performance is not proof of peace, and competence is not proof of self-respect. Many inner critics also sound rational, which makes them harder to challenge. The voice may say, I am just being honest, realistic, or accountable. It may not sound dramatic or insulting every time. Sometimes it sounds cold, efficient, and factual. That style makes it easy to believe the critic is helping, even when it is harming. A healthy correction says, I need a better plan. A hostile critic says, I am the problem. That difference seems small in language, but it becomes huge in emotion and behavior. The roots of this pattern are often old, and they are often relational. Some people grow up where love, safety, or attention feels tied to performance, usefulness, or emotional control. Some had parents who were openly critical, impossible to please, or quietly perfectionistic. Some learned parentification, which means they became the helpful, mature, low-maintenance child too early. In that role, value gets linked to being useful instead of being human. Other people were shaped by bullying, humiliation, repeated invalidation, or intense comparison around grades, looks, or reputation. Some families praise modesty in words but punish imperfection in practice, and children learn that contradiction fast. Over time, the child builds an inner voice that tries to prevent pain before pain arrives again. That voice may believe it is protecting you, even while it keeps hurting you. The long-term damage can show up in work first because work rewards high effort for a while. Self-critical people often achieve a lot, but they also procrastinate, freeze, and struggle to delegate. If everything feels like a test of worth, starting gets scary and sharing control gets scary too. Visibility can become painful, even when the person wants success. A promotion, a bigger project, or public recognition may bring fear instead of excitement. Then burnout grows because the person is functioning under constant internal threat. Relationships get hit in a different way, but the damage is still real. A self-critical person may need reassurance often, yet have trouble truly receiving it. A neutral comment can sound like rejection because the mind is already waiting for proof of failure. The person may also hide needs because their own needs feel indulgent while other people's needs feel valid. That creates a painful pattern. They give care easily but receive care badly. People around them may think, you do so much for others, why can you not do that for yourself? Mental health takes a direct hit because constant self-attack keeps the body ready for danger. Recent psychological thinking describes self-criticism as a transdiagnostic factor, which means it shows up across many kinds of distress. It does not belong to only one diagnosis. It overlaps with depression, anxiety, burnout, eating problems, and social anxiety. That matters because high-functioning self-criticism is not just a personality quirk. It can become a broad system that shapes mood, energy, identity, and daily choices. Some signs show that the pattern is getting more severe and needs serious attention. You cannot enjoy success without immediately searching for what was wrong with it. Small mistakes bring huge shame that does not match the size of the mistake. You avoid chances that would make your work more visible, even when they could help you grow. You believe other people's needs are legitimate, but your own needs feel embarrassing or extra. Your inner voice sounds contemptuous, disgusted, or openly punishing instead of simply disappointed. People call you capable, but privately you feel like a fraud who may collapse at any moment. You function well in public and fall apart in private where nobody sees the cost. What helps starts with one idea that sounds small but changes everything. The inner critic is a pattern. It is not objective truth. That means the voice in your head may be familiar, loud, and fast, but that does not make it accurate. Once you see it as a pattern, you can stop obeying every sentence it says. The next step is changing character attacks into behavior feedback. Instead of saying, "I am a failure," say, "That plan did not work and needs adjustment." Instead of saying, "I am lazy," say, "My energy is low and I need support, sleep, or a better schedule." This move sounds simple, but it breaks the link between one event and your whole identity. It lets correction happen without turning the self into the enemy. Self-compassion helps here, and current therapy does not treat it as weakness. Research increasingly treats self-compassion as a protective skill, not a soft excuse. It does not mean pretending mistakes are fine or refusing responsibility. It means responding to pain without adding extra cruelty on top of the pain. The sentence, "I made a mistake," can lead to growth. The sentence, "I am a mistake," leads to shame. Learning to tolerate being good enough is another major step. High-functioning self-criticism often demands exceptional performance all the time, and that demand crushes joy. Good enough is not failure. Good enough is often how healthy, sustainable life actually works. Not every email needs perfect wording. Not every room needs your total control. Not every task needs overwork. Each time you stop one unnecessary extra step, you teach your body that survival does not require constant proof. That practice can feel scary at first because the critic predicts disaster. But over time, your nervous system learns that fewer defenses do not always bring danger. Another powerful question is this: am I using productivity to manage shame right now? That question can expose why rest feels unsafe and why slowing down feels morally wrong. If the answer is yes, the task may not just be about time management. The task may be learning that your worth does not rise and fall with your output. In deeper cases, therapy can help target shame, perfectionism, self-attack, and rigid thinking patterns. That kind of support matters because this pattern often formed over many years, not one bad week. You are not weak for needing help with a voice that has been training inside you for a long time. The most telling sign may be this simple contrast. Everyone around you sees someone competent, generous, and put together. Your private experience is feeling one missed detail away from not deserving the life you built. If that gap feels painfully familiar, the problem is not that you are secretly broken. The problem may be that you learned to function under criticism so well that nobody noticed the cost, including you. And once you can name that cost, you can start building a different engine for your life. Watch our next video on perfectionism and shame, because that is where this inner voice often learns its script.